Hope versus shrewdness. Now, I know what you're thinking. When you hear the word shrewd, you just think, man, you a cheap ass. And you know where that second word was going. Shrewdness is actually a different matter entirely. It has to do with being cunning and being severe, hard, piercing. There's numerous definitions, and not just being a cheapo. So why am I making this? Because we are in the middle of a recession, and I think if I was a little bit more, or actually a lot more shrewd instead of hopeful, I think I would be in a lot better place. Let me give you an example. I was hoping that this construction project would have been over 6 to 8 months ago. But engineering, but inspections, adding a bunch of nonsense, permitting, people not showing up to work, and all these factors came into play. I was hopeful that they would work out. I'll give you another example. 4 years ago, probably spent over 20 grand on an event series. Some of y'all may have remembered the Buckhead Real Estate Investment Mixer. And that one, made some good networking, taught a lot of people, taught hundreds of people about real estate investing. It was very gratifying, but it was not profitable. I also invested in an office space in Buckhead, thinking that, if I'm surrounded by money, then everybody will invest in the syndication. Whereas the reality of what occurred was people from the actual event actually didn't carry through into wanting a deeper relationship. So I ended up hitting up a lot of my existing network, which I could have done without the event series and still had success. So I invested in office space, which was like $800 a month for that suite, which was still pretty awesome. I got some great video content there. And it was sweet to see that almost every day. But when I reached out to my existing network, they were like, well, Ivan, actually, could you meet over here for coffee, or could we do over Zoom? So the office ended up being useless entirely. And to some degree, even the event series too. I mean, I still enjoy giving content out for free with my millionaire friends, giving out free content, but it's, it was not profitable for the speakers and for me. And so there's also a cost to giving things out for free, which is people are not going to actually use it. There's a misconception that free is everything every person wants, but because it's free, they don't actually apply it. There's no motivation to have real world application because there's no skin in the game. But anyways, that's a whole aside. Let's get back to hope versus shrewdness here. I was hopeful about a couple decisions that occurred this year. And when I bring it back, because I always got to bring it back to God. We think that there's a perspective of God that he should answer all of our prayers. He should do everything that we want him to do, like a genie, that he's a person that's going to give us the moon and the stars and a stick. And that's just not how God operates. If anything, hoping for positivity and giving us everything we want is more of a new age type religious belief system, like speaking things into existence. Like, God does not just give you everything, especially because he shouldn't. I mean, do you imagine, just bring it back to the lottery for a second. If you earned that and you didn't, or rather, if you won that money and you didn't earn it, that's why we see that they lose it immediately within a year. It's because there's no education, there's no meaning. So God wants meaning before he gives you responsibility, before he gives you a lot of money. And he's not going to be giving you miracle to miracle because you're just going to, put it off to the side, even like in the Old Testament. These dudes were getting food from the sky from a burning cloud every single day, and it meant nothing to them over time. They were like, let's go worship this golden calf anyways. Even though we're getting fed every day, we have no need. But anyways, I keep going into detours. But yeah, hope versus shrewdness. Shrewdness is valuable in business, especially, not necessarily in personal life, because, I'll give you another example here. I had this business partner, and we had locked up this deal at a juicy profit margin. We put it on the contract, and a few weeks into it, he decided, let's go ahead and see if we can get a little bit more of a price reduction on this thing. And, the worst case is they would have said no. Maybe they would have had a bad taste in their mouth, but they couldn't get out of the contract from us just asking a question. And he did go for it, and surprisingly, they went for it too. And that was a practice in shrewdness that, there's a bit of taking that too far sometimes. But when you're talking about coming into a recession like we are right now, being shrewd years in the past to have a bigger reserve is valuable, right? To carry payroll down, to carry funds for a down payment down the line. But at the same time, you don't want to overdo it every single time where you're asking for 90% off properties because, number one, you would not buy any properties. And number two, your relationship in Atlanta would be known as that guy that just offers 90% off the price. And not that we even offered that and they went for that, but it was a significant, like $50,000 off. And so things like this are important to keep in mind. You could be hopeful, but be recognizant and discerning of what's really going on in the world. There are real estate cycles. There are needs for reserves, savings. You can't always be running everything close to the hip and expecting God to be saving you miracle to miracle, like I mentioned before. It's just not how he operates. He expects you to be a big boy or a big gal. Lift your belt buckle or lift your pants up by your belt and get to work, pick up that shovel sometimes. And God, of course, will not let you go off and be without food, be in a really dark place, unless that's just what you want. And the decisions you make go for that. What God wants is good for you, but he's not just some dude that you just ask for things and expect them to occur, So these are all considerations when it comes to hope versus shrewdness. And I just arrived to my next property, so I'll hit you in the next video. Not literally, I don't want to harm you because I know I have big fists.